I will now present on the topic of Line and Yahoo's Business ID integration. This will be the final session of TechFest 2026. I believe that all of you in the audience will have a social gathering later, but I kindly ask you to hold back your desire to toast for a little while longer and listen for about 10 more minutes. First, a brief self-introduction. My name is Yusuke Tanaka. I joined Line in 2018 and was responsible for developing Line official accounts. And then, in 2021, I transferred to the development of Line Business ID. After the integration of companies and products, I am currently the development lead for Business ID. Today's topic is this. What kind of product is Business ID? How we proceeded with the integration of Business ID, and I'll talk about that reflection. First, regarding Business ID, among those of you participating, some may already be familiar with Business ID, but I would like to briefly explain the product overview. The main topic of this presentation is Line Yahoo Business ID. Those of you who have used the services listed on the right may have seen the screen on the left. This login screen is for Business ID. Business ID is a login platform that supports Line and Yahoo's B2B services. Business ID is used by various services, including Line Official Account, Line and Yahoo Advertising, and Yahoo Shopping. The number of registered accounts exceeds 30 million, and the number of daily active users exceeds 1 million. It is also a very large and important platform that supports Line Yahoo's main B2B services, which are used by over 50 internal services. Next, I will talk about the Business ID integration project. I will discuss the project overview and the innovations within that project. In 2023, Line and Yahoo merged. Line had Line Business ID, and Yahoo Japan had a B2B authentication platform called Yahoo Japan Business ID. Due to the company merger, two business IDs overlapped, which hindered the creation of synergy from the merger. The Business ID integration project aims to resolve this issue. What kind of things come to mind when you hear system integration? The integration we are talking about here has two main meanings. One that is platform integration, which integrates the authentication infrastructure from the perspective of the services used into the new Business ID. Another is the account integration feature, which unifies accounts such as Line Business ID and Yahoo Japan Business ID into one. In this presentation, I will mainly discuss the former, platform integration, and at the end, I would like to reflect on the latter. To add to that, in this integration, Line Business ID was chosen as the successor platform. We adopted a method where the authentication function of the Facebook app Business ID is integrated into it. Also, Yahoo Japan Business ID is one function of a larger platform called Business Center. But this time, we proceeded with the project by first narrowing the scope to the authentication function. Now, that concludes the explanation of the product and project. This is the core part of what I'd like to discuss in this session. In this platform integration, instead of making the entire project one large release, we divided the migration into three separate steps. Namely, the migration of authentication functions and the migration of user data in units of services used. Both Line Business ID and Yahoo Japan Business ID are large platforms used by dozens of services, with millions of accounts registered. Because it's used by services that account for Line Yahoo's main revenue, it was very important to integrate it without affecting business services. For this reason, we focused on dividing the release into small steps, making it possible to roll back at each stage. Now let's look at each of these steps one by one. First, the initial step of the integration is the integration of the authentication functions. Yahoo Japan Business ID is a system that allows users to log in with their Yahoo Japan ID. We also implemented the login functionality for Yahoo Japan ID on the new Business ID platform, allowing Yahoo Japan Business ID users to log in as they always have. The new Business ID acts as a single authentication platform from the perspective of the services that use it. However, internally, depending on the account status, there are cases where data from Line Business ID and Yahoo Japan Business ID are referenced respectively. In other words, by having the new Business ID act as a facade, we enabled users, regardless of which system they came from, to log in without significantly altering the implementation on the service side. The second step is switching over to the use of services. There are over 30 services that use Yahoo Japan Business Center. Since each had its own roadmap, it was not realistic to migrate all services at once at the same time. So, we set up a 2-year transition period, allowing each service to migrate its authentication platform at its preferred timing. This design allowed us to proceed with the migration at our convenience, without having to wait for user migration. Also, if a problem occurred, we made it possible to roll back simply by reverting the destination. Actually, as we proceeded with the service migration, there were cases where data in an unexpected format came in, and also cases where a rollback became necessary due to IP address restrictions for important customers. However, since we maintained a state where users could log in with either the old or new authentication platforms, we were able to safely roll back in either case and complete the migration after making corrections. This is the current status of the migration. Currently, we are about halfway through the migration period, and while some services are still in the process of being migrated, approximately 80% of the target user base has been migrated. And this is this is the third step, the final step. Thus far, users and services have been safely migrated to the new platform. On the other hand, ultimately, the new Business ID platform must be able to operate independently without relying on Yahoo Japan Business Center. Here too, we avoided large-scale maintenance, such as bulk data migration. Users who no longer used the Business Center had their user data migrated to the new Business ID in sequence. At Yahoo Japan Business Center, service usage requires registration. Therefore, if all services that a user has registered for have been migrated to the new Business ID, that user will no longer need to log in to the Business Center. So, we move data sequentially from users who no longer use the service, transitioning unit by unit rather than in a batch. We designed it to safely eliminate dependencies. By doing this, we aim to safely proceed with the migration on a per-user basis, ultimately reaching a state where the number of Business Center users naturally becomes 0. The third point is a review of the project. This is the most important point I would like you all to remember and take home with you. Looking back, one of the things that went well was migrating from the authentication function. In addition to authentication, Yahoo Japan Business Center has multiple functions, such as company information management, authority management, and payment information management. If we tried to migrate all of them at once, the scope would become too large, and there was a possibility that the start of the integration itself would be delayed. First, by isolating and migrating only the authentication functions, we were able to advance the integration process. Additionally, each service could easily formulate its migration plan, premising that logins would use the new Business ID. Secondly, regarding what went well, this was achieved by maintaining the possibility of rollback with each release. No matter how much preparation you do for a system migration, unexpected things are bound to happen. Therefore, it was extremely important to design it in a way that avoided large-scale, simultaneous releases and allowed each release to be rolled back without affecting users. In this project, we maintained a state where users could log in with either the old or new authentication platforms, so we were able to safely roll back in the event of an issue. Finally, I would like to talk about areas for improvement. The point is that account integration may not have been necessary. This project, in addition to platform integration, involves a one-to-one integration of accounts, namely Line Business ID and Yahoo Japan Business ID. We also released the account integration function that merges them at the same time. This was implemented because there was a need to allow users who were using both systems and had 2 business IDs to log in with a single business ID. However, as a result, this feature might have been unnecessary. The simultaneous release of platform integration and account integration, along with the associated announcements, caused confusion among both internal and external users. There were also problems such as misleading customers about how to use the service, or customers mistakenly linking business IDs together that were not intended to be linked. If we were to design a similar integration next time, instead of simply linking accounts one-to-one, we would like to consider a feature that allows simultaneous login with multiple accounts. To summarize, at LY Corporation, we integrated two B2B authentication platforms following the company merger. Let's review the key takeaways I'd like you to remember. The main point of this design is that we didn't make the integration a single large release. Thank you for listening to my talk. And the migration of user data so that each could be migrated in stages, and maintaining the possibility of rollback at each stage led to a safe migration. We introduced how, even in large-scale environments where maintenance is difficult, integration can be safely advanced by designing for phased migration and rollback capability. Thank you for listening.